Awesome. Thank you all so much. Thanks, Katie, for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I'm grateful. What a beautiful place. A beautiful drive this morning. I want to make sure this works. Yes, thank you, sponsors. I'm sitting at the consumers table. Thank you, consumers. And I'm going to start here. So I'm pretty sure that you're not going to be able to see this. I was back there unless you have binoculars or really, really X-ray vision. So just take the pretty pictures. I'm an outdoor rec guy, so there'll be pretty pictures. But I'm going to have to talk through some of these slides. So the theme here is really something that the state has been focusing on. How do we get more out of outdoor rec? We all love it. We're Michiganders. I love my Jeep. I love my bikes. I love to hunt, fish. So how do we turn that into economic prosperity, especially in our rural communities? And Katie and I have been talking and working, and I've been working with the Office of Rural Prosperity and others to think about how do we capture more of that value in our communities and hold on to it for talent, for the future, for prosperity. So that's what we're going to talk about today. A couple of key things. What do we mean? Why, so many words. The Office of Outdoor Recreation Industry. It's a lot of words, but is a real thing. And I want to talk a little bit about what we mean when we say that, because it's a little different than what you might expect. The notion there, the twist from what we love to do to what people can be and what our kids can be after they go to school and for engineering. Is there an opportunity for them in the outdoor rec industry? The answer is absolutely yes, if we pivot just a little bit from what we're doing now. What the office is, what I do, and how I can be of assistance to you and your leaders and your businesses, some data that we're trying to push out. And I want to talk a little bit about that, what it can do for you, and we're going to be starting a project just now, kicking off in this region as well. And then some of the opportunities, and then specifically a couple of examples, a couple of places that I can hold out and say, this is where some of these things are coming together, both in Michigan and nationally. So starting, what is the outdoor industry? Well, it's huge. And I think that's one thing that I want to make sure if you leave here with nothing else, tourism is absolutely a piece of this, but that's not the whole story. And Parks and Rec and the amount of state ownership of public lands that supports our recreational lifestyle is a part of it, but it's also not the whole story. If you take the whole story and you wrap it all around, it's actually one of the biggest industries in the country. 5 million jobs, over 2% of GDP, over $1 trillion nationally. And that is bigger than a lot of sectors that we do focus on really carefully. Take automotive here in Michigan. This is way bigger than that. Bigger than aerospace or some of those that you hear a lot about. Even natural resource extraction, oil and gas, it's bigger than that. So the challenge is it's more diverse than those. It is encompassing the facilities where people enjoy the recreation, but also the products and some of those things that we'll talk about. The other reason the state is focused on this and hoping our regional leaders and our communities get behind it, it's been growing consistently faster than the overall GDP. So 2.5 times faster overall. And that has before COVID. I know there was a big bump in COVID and we're still got some hangover from that. But it's a pretty consistent growth opportunity. It's an economy that is on the rise. So I've been showing some data and some slides from a group called the Outdoor Recreation Roundtable. And I think this is one way to start thinking about what we mean when we say the industry of the outdoors. So you can't see these, I wish you could, but this is the membership of a trade association called the Outdoor Recreation Roundtable. And it is what you would expect, the American Sport Fishing and some of those, but it's also the National Marine Manufacturers, the folks who are making boats over in Cadillac. That's a big piece of their economy. Four Winds, Tierra Yachts, so many of Michigan's boat builders are in that number when we talk about the outdoor rec economy. So it's using the boats on our lakes and rivers, but it's also designing, building, manufacturing, sewing the seats, doing the whole thing. And there's so many examples like that. The RV Industry Association of America is on here. We have a few in Michigan. Indiana has a ton. And that's also jobs and opportunity in the outdoor industry, all the way up to ones you'd expect like Patagonia or REI or some of those folks are in there too. So it's a diverse economy that we're trying to wrap our arms around. I got a couple of brochures up here if you want to take one with you. But this is what the state is trying to market to the world. That not only is Michigan, pure Michigan, a great place to play, but it's also a great place to grow a business in the outdoor space, to start a business. And this has only been a few years that we really identified this opportunity. We launched it there on the side where we launched. This was actually at one of the largest trade shows in the outdoors out in Denver called the Outdoor Retailer Show. And we did it in partnership with one of Michigan's best outdoor companies. It's in the lower left corner. A little tweet that went out from Carhartt, which I don't know how many of you folks know, but Carhartt can workwear, but also outdoor. They really can see themselves as outdoor. You wear it when you fish. You wear it when you do a lot of stuff. And they are a Michigan company, have been since 1889 down in Dearborn, and they are a big supporter of this because they need the employees. They need designers, engineers, and a lot of folks to work at Carhartt, and they find people loving the outdoors. This is all part of, just quickly, the overall Michigan strategy: people, places, and projects. If you haven't heard that, you will. It's not just the mantra that I share, but it's really what the state is trying to build. So people, the people that are creating businesses, how do we help people in communities prosper? How do we invest in place making? Outdoor rec is a really key component of that. I was just talking to Katie a little bit about, real estate downtown on a waterfront in a cute little village like this. That's a really great asset. How do we focus on investing strategically in the place? And then how do we win some projects? Like, what can we grow? What can we attract? And put all the whole state together to really make that happen. And it's part of what the sector that we're focusing on, again, really small, but there are others. The Office of Outdoor Rec Industry sits next to things like mobility. That's obviously a big piece of Michigan's future. How do we advance mobility in the partnership with the auto industry? And then aerospace and defense is a newer one. And there's a lot of overlap there with outdoor as well, from backpacks to vehicles. So that's what we're doing. It really is an all-team approach. I see the Office of Rural Prosperity up here. It really is not just me, but it's how do I work with other state agencies, local partners, the DNR. I was meeting the DNR director just yesterday, talking about this, and housing, like obviously a huge issue in rural areas. So the Outdoor Industry Office is a pathway. It's a connector point between a lot of resources and programs and an industry that's really hungry for those partnerships. So what are we doing? I'll just highlight a couple of these, and I hope they resonate, and we can talk a little bit more about them. But what this says is, one goal is really the office is trying to connect Michigan suppliers, companies, and communities to opportunities in the outdoor rec industry with information, data, and strategy. What that means simply is, like, I know the industry pretty well. I sat with the industry folks. I'm on a call this afternoon with most of those folks on that slide through the Outdoor Recreation Roundtable, and I get to see firsthand what they're wrestling with in real time. So whether it's a boat manufacturer or a backpack maker, a clothing apparel company, I get to see firsthand what they're needing and then try to flag those opportunities as something our companies can support them in. The supply chain is a big topic right now. How do we leverage that? If you've got something happening here in your community, in a pole barn somewhere where people are making parts, supplying parts for some aspect of the auto industry, that might be a diversification opportunity into the outdoor space on an ATV, on a boat, something like that. So data, and this is not something you can look at now, but it's something I hope you go back and play with on your own time. So this is something we built, a data portal, to really take some of that data that I was sharing early on. What is inside that trillion-dollar economy in Michigan? This is something you can get in there. This is federal data that we've put in through a visualization tool, so you could pull any one of those threads. Are you interested in the tourism and hospitality piece? What is the economy here in Osceola County or something from that piece of the outdoor economy? Or are you interested in the manufacturing? What's happening? How can we get there? That's what we're trying to get to with this. So you can start to see how the economy functions under the hood with this data. But I can give you some highlights. First, it's big in Michigan too. So if it's $1 trillion nationally, almost $14 billion of the GDP is coming out of Michigan specifically. And it's huge, and it grew $1 billion even in an off year. So we get this every year. The latest data is 2023. So it was up from just under 13 to almost 14 in just a year. That's $1 billion more circulating in the economy, specifically around outdoor rec. And as you all know up here probably, it was kind of an iffy winter. So we were really concerned that tail end of winter in 2023 with Christmas and some of those things, but it still grew. So it is more resilient than we think. It's a lot of jobs, almost 120,000. A lot of wages being paid, specifically out of the outdoor sector in Michigan, $6.5 billion. But also looking at trends. So if we just looked at 1 year, this is actually a pretty slow growth year, but jobs were up 2.5% in the outdoor industry from 2022 to 23. Compensation up faster, 7.5%, so paying more. But the one I really love to focus on is outdoor rec manufacturing. It's hard to see there, but that was up 112% in the years from 2016 to 2023. And you can see this visualized on that data portal. If you go and play around, that line is going straight up since 2016. So we're making more stuff. And that is a value proposition that we can capture here. We are the state that makes things. So how do we combine those? We love to play in the outdoors. We buy a lot of gear, ATVs, side-by-sides, boats, bikes, clothing. Jay's sporting goods is a good example. Jeff and I know each other pretty well. What's good for him in retail means upstream somebody is making all those products and someone's designing and innovating in that space. And that's the value proposition I think we can capture. So many numbers. But this is where I want to talk about, this is a work in progress. And I mentioned or alluded to kicking off a project. So working with Katie, and it's actually through Region 4, they got some grant money to really dig deep in this region of West and Central Michigan to figure out like how many of these businesses do we have today that we can help grow? How many are supplying a part or doing something? So we broke into 3 big categories, and we're going to be kicking this off. Gear product manufacturing is a highlight. It's one of our big 3. Obviously retail and wholesale, like people are buying stuff in boat dealerships and in gear shops. Lots of little ones. This is a good place where communities come together around gear shops and things. And then access facilitation is a word we talk about, just like how are nature centers? I was seeing headlines even in the annual report, like investing through Spark grants in nature centers, investing in parks and communities where education happens. We're teaching the next generation how to care for these places, these rivers, kayak liveries, canoe liveries, those kind of places fit in this category too. And then there's a bunch of others that are really the front-facing, so events, if you have outdoor recreation events on the Muskegon or something like that. People who are creating content, the filmmaker who's filming me right now, can do some great stuff in the outdoors, and there's a huge market for that, and brands are looking for that visibility, so how do we tap that? And then obviously site selectors, folks are looking nationally for a place to set up the next kayak manufacturing facility or something. Why couldn't it be here? So those are a target for us. Then I just threw some pretty pictures. You can see Van Dam boats. It's one I just love to share when I go nationally. Those are our beautiful boats made up north. Viking RVs, we do make. It's not all in Indiana. We make some RVs here. And so we've been diving deep for a couple of years now, trying to figure out how many companies are in this space. And it runs the gamut. I just threw this slide together because you can see it's everything from bearings that are going into vehicles in the outdoors. Thetford is huge in the RV industry. We sit down with them, we talk to them, and they ask, like, what is their biggest need? And they said, new product ideas. We need new innovations for what is going to go into those campers. So we're like, all right, we've got some innovators in Michigan, especially in our communities that are using these things. So how do we tie Thetford into that? So it runs the gamut, Stealthcraft, Cycle Safe, so many outdoor recreation companies in Michigan that we didn't really ever think about as one industry that we could focus on. And we're trying to figure out where they all are. This is rudimentary data, but if we just looked at those makers, there are some around. Retailers, there's more. Obviously, this is where people are buying stuff, is where the population centers are. And then some of those, the last one was access facilitation, and this is retail. So we're starting to get a handle on this at a rudimentary level, and then in the next year, probably 9 months or so, we'll have a much clearer picture thanks to projects that we're doing together. This one I know is near and dear to this region and to Katie's heart. So the second big strategy, elevating Michigan as an outdoor lifestyle destination for talent, attracting outdoor industry companies, but also employers and employees based on how amazing our recreational assets are. The trick there is we want to do it by supporting placemaking, innovation, and outreach engagement with the industry so that they understand what you can do here too. I think most of them, I will tell you, assume that to be in the outdoor industry, you need to be in Colorado or Utah or Maine or maybe North Carolina. But increasingly, we're getting Michigan recognized as a place that has those two magic ingredients. The outdoor rec you can enjoy and test and refine your gear and experience the outdoors, and the ability to make things, design, engineer, innovate, and create real-world products. And that's something a lot of states don't have. So we're getting there, and we're also seeing other states leaning into this talent space. I'll just share that Utah not only is a great outdoor state, but it's booming in the tech sector. And they interviewed all those tech sector employees, so not outdoor industry employees, just people working in software and making apps and things. But the most important factor they listed for being in Utah was access to the outdoor recreation and to wilderness. I think that's something Michigan can play up so that we are not seen as another Iowa, but something more akin to a Midwestern Utah or something. And that's a lot of what I talk about. And we do look at other states that are using the outdoors as talent attraction components. We benchmark some of those. This is Ascend West Virginia. Last time I checked, they were giving you a bike or a kayak in addition to other incentives to move to West Virginia. That's the kind of stuff I think we can think about here. It's like, yeah, we want you here, and we want you to go outside and enjoy it. So here's, I don't know, a fishing rod or whatever you want to do. Again, this is something we already have. We're doing really well. Pure Michigan has really elevated. My mom is in Kansas. She sees Pure Michigan commercials and calls me and tells me, you must live in the best state. And I was like, yeah, Mom, I do. It's really nice. You should come visit. So how do we leverage that for more than just tourism? I love tourism. It's great. But the way I think about that is like that's the last dollar someone's going to spend in your community when they are using their bike there. That bike was made and bought somewhere else. So how do we get some of that moved into our communities too? But if you're not already plugged in, you should into the Pure Michigan campaign. They make it really easy. If you have a business like this and you want to get listed as part of that, they make it really easy. So start there, but then also how do we expand it? That's about placemaking. So a little bit of a nudge from marketing your destination to really managing it for something different. And this is the placemaking resources and teams, working really closely with them, the playbooks, the toolkits, the resiliency thinking that the Main Street community is doing is, I think, world-class. Because then it does get into these, which is not my area. It's more placemaking, and it happens locally. But all these businesses that help an outdoor community thrive, things like this particular place, a coffee shop, a brewery, all those recreational advocates who are out doing river cleanups and doing invasive species removals, all those kind of things, those are adjacent and part of the conversation about really leveraging your outdoor recreation assets. How do we steward them? How do we steward them well as we continue to grow and attract visitors to the place? So we also, on that data portal, you'll find this. It's a lot of data about specifically what people in Michigan are doing in the outdoors. So this was a survey we did with the DNR. We'll repeat it every 5 years. You can't read that, but wildlife viewing is the largest vertical there. That's something we probably could do more with. People want to see and be accessible to nature. How do we make that easier? How do we leverage the beautiful outdoors for wildlife viewing? A lot of unpaved trails and paths. You don't have to build a highway trail. You can just open up some of your lands with hiking trails. It's a really popular thing. So this is what we're trying to do. Everything's on here from horseback riding to RV camping to off-road motorcycling. And you can dig in. And really what you can get to with this is we started modeling how important economically it is to do any one of these things. So wildlife viewing, not only popular, but also really important to people. And they're willing to pay money to do it. And the other piece we're trying to tie in, a big issue in rural communities, is health. So how do we start thinking of our outdoor recreation amenities as a way to save healthcare dollars? If we can get people more active, we can address chronic disease and illness. So we also modeled that based on what people are doing today. Walking on unpaved trails and paths here in Michigan is one of the best things we can do because it gets people physically active outdoors and reduces the illness burden that they have to bear. But all kinds of things, even off-road motorcycling has health benefits, apparently, according to this model. So you don't have to go for a jog. You can also get out and wrestle your ATV around, and that is good for you. So those things come together in something called a You Can in Michigan campaign, for example. We market Yes, it's a great place to play. What you can do in Michigan, sports and outdoors, as we do this talent attraction, but even more what you can be. You can be someone who innovates, creates the products that will go into these stores or into these boats. So we highlight on this page, You Can in Michigan. I would check it out, themichiganlife.org, and see some of the companies that are hiring in this space in Michigan today, in the outdoor space. Last but not least, I know this is pitch contests and things are happening here. So yeah, building and connecting an entrepreneurial pipeline to support outdoor-specific startups, innovation, and new products and processes. I just love talking about this because Michigan has been doing this forever. I could go all the way back to the Marble Arms Safety Acts in the 1800s up in Escanaba, when the outdoors was first seen as a place to go for recreation, not just for lumbering. He was inventing stuff out of Escanaba and selling it nationally. But we invented snowboarding. If you didn't already know that, there's a really cute little video called Made in the Mitten in the 60s. They called it snurfing, snow surfing. So there's a statue in downtown Muskegon to the invention of the snowboard, but you would never know that today. Like that, you would assume that's something that was invented in Utah, Colorado, or I don't know, the Alps or something. But no, it's right here in Michigan. That's a story we want to tell more often because we can do it again. And we have pop-up tents, which are now the ubiquitous tent in the outdoor industry. That's a patent from Ann Arbor. Cranbrook, the designer there, was the first one to really invent the pop-up tent. It later became Moss tents, and then the whole industry changed. So the point there is not only do we invent products, but we invent new ways to be outdoors. And I think that's going to continue to be a story that we can tell. And we also have the places to play with it. People think of the UP as this great sort of playground, but Merrell, which is a Michigan-based company down in Rockford, the largest hiking boot and now running shoe in the world, they had a website, did a campaign about the Upper Peninsula as a place to test and prove how tough their products are and why their designers love it so much. So I think that is something we can also do in these rural communities. Test gear, connect outdoors, influencers to testing gear in our outdoor places. And of course, vehicles. In that same vein, we have invented and reinvented the way people go outside and play in their vehicles. The Bronco is one of my favorite stories because I love those from the 60s. And then the way we were able to bring it back, there's some really, really cool innovations baked into that that can make it compete with my Jeep that I drive and make it in some ways even better. So vehicles are another way to do the outdoors. And there's all kinds of ways that that becomes segments that we can focus on. Overlanding, if you haven't heard that term, it's basically all the stuff you bolt on to a vehicle to make it your vehicle of choice to go spend extended time outdoors. This is something, you just look at a picture like that. There's festivals. We've talked to the Detroit Auto Show about adding one of these into, but it's rooftop tents, it's racks, it's gears, it's gas cans, it's things that Michigan can make. And it's a huge and growing segment, one of the fastest growing segments. And we have some good ones in Michigan. And we even have soft goods, not as much. This is Underground Quilt Company from down in the Jackson area, but they make hammocking. I don't know if you remember when hammocking suddenly blew up. My kids were like in the hammocks all the time. So they were making those and then making the quilts that keep you warm when you're hammocking in Michigan at a trout opener, for example, which I've tried to do. So this is in Michigan too. Soft goods, hard goods, vehicles, paddlecraft. We are trying to figure out how to do that better. So we partnered with a national group called Founded Outdoors, which works about 400 outdoor startup companies, to really look at what do they need as startups to grow and thrive. And Michigan has really what it takes. I'll talk about 3 specific startups, for example, to give you a flavor. All Dry there on the left. This is a Great Lakes surfer from the Traverse City area. He's actually from France originally, Aurélien. He makes this because when you come out of the water in February, I guess it's cold, apparently. So he wants a jacket that you can throw on. It's big, it's heavy, but it keeps you warm while you're sitting and waiting for your next trek out into the water. So the cool thing about that one is, as he invented this, we worked with him to try to get some production. He's really innovative about how it's used. He wants to co-brand it. He's working with universities now because this makes a good stadium coat too. Central Michigan is actually working with him on this. But then also outdoor gear shops are trying to help him sell it and get in front of people. So if you visit Crystal Mountains Gear Shop, I think they're selling these, and as is Downwind Sports up in the UP. So that's on the left, Oshki on the right. Again, this is like, it's a hat. But what's cool about it is he's trying to connect it to a place. This is a designer from Muskegon, and he wants to use recycled plastic that they're pulling out of the Great Lakes to make more apparel. So he's making performance apparel, he makes hats, he also makes shirts. I'm a member of Trout Unlimited, and the cool thing is I just got my national, like, please give us more money request. But the free gift they were giving was actually an Oshki shirt, which it will say, designed in Muskegon, Michigan. And that's going out to all the Trout Unlimited members who are suckers like me and paid more money because I really wanted this piece of gear. I love what they're doing, but I also love gear like this. And then this last one, the Kickstarter that raised $175, that's a company called Pangu Apparel. I highlight this one because it was the largest Kickstarter campaign, like a grassroots fundraising effort in Michigan's history in the apparel sector, and it's climbing pants. You wouldn't think about Michigan and climbing, but we actually have a really robust climbing community, and out of Detroit. So she found her people in Dino Gym in Detroit, designed pants specifically to meet her needs and her friends' needs, and now she's going gangbusters. She's working with REI, she's gonna get into theirs. She's part of a national campaign as well. And she goes climbing in the UP. We have some of the best rock climbing in the Midwest here in Michigan. So she went from a Detroit gym up to the UP and is kicking off that company. So we're adding to the landscape. What do founders need? They need access to capital. So we partnered with Invest UP up in the UP to create this new Outdoor Innovation Industry Fund. And we've run a couple of contests. They fund across the state. So it's not limited to the UP. They funded in Detroit. They funded in West Michigan. They could fund here if you have an innovator or a product or something that you think would be worthy. I know Jim and that team are all ears. They're looking at all kinds of outdoor innovation products. So what are we going to try to do? And what I hope you leave with, happy to answer questions and talk a little bit. We want to showcase all this and how it comes together uniquely in regions like this. So celebrating this county and the 3 counties that Katie and the team work in, not only is it a great place to visit for fun in the outdoors, it's a pretty place that's threatened. We hear a lot about that. Our clean waters, we've got rock snot in our rivers. It all needs to be done. But also, how do we position this region as a partner to the industry that's trying to solve those? So we have authentic landscapes and inspiring experiences right out your back door. We have unique production, innovation, and product testing capabilities that we have only yet to begin to explore, and that we're ready to target investments into this space to really appeal to the outdoors. So a couple of examples, how are we doing that? I've mentioned Utah. Utah was ahead of us, so they created their office 10 years ago now. We have created ours 5. But they have been doing these things that I just described most of that time. So down in the bottom corner, this is their economic development package from a few years ago, but outdoor products and recreation. They really put outdoor products right alongside the act of recreating as something you can do in Utah. And this little headline you can't see in orange there says, Utah, your 85,000 square mile testing facility. So I think that's a subtle way we can start rethinking not only a great place for us to enjoy and be part of the outdoor community, but how do we attract the businesses that need to test gear in these places? And we can be their recreational testing ground. This one from North Carolina is one of my favorites. They have a campaign called Loved by Locals. So they find gear made in North Carolina, and then they find where it came from, and they go to those communities and talk to them about why that gear came out of that community in Western North Carolina. And I would love to do that more here. Like what boat or what jacket or what product could only have come from this place? And how do we celebrate that with state and national campaigns? And then Maine Outdoor Brands, we're working toward this, but just you can tell what we want to get to is all these outdoor brands seeing themselves in Michigan as part of one thing. Just like the auto industry is not bifurcated 1,000 ways, it's the auto industry and it's recognized. We know who's in it, from the suppliers to the big OEMs. Maine has been able to do that, but Maine is also really tiny. How do we do that at scale here is going to be, I think, an industry-leading example if we can do it in Michigan. Because truly, like, yeah, all of Maine could fit, like, population-wise in like one of our larger counties. But it's still a cool effort. Examples in Michigan and what we'll be doing here. This one is from the Jackson-Hillsdale-Lenawee area, their regional planning commission. We worked together over a couple of years to look at that data, figure out what businesses they had, and they created the Southern Michigan Outdoors campaign, focusing on outdoor recreation, what they've termed rec tech, how do we do innovation, because that fits with theirs. So those are two sides of the coin that now they're trying to rebrand Prison City, Jackson, as an outdoor recreation destination to enjoy. The Irish Hills, they have amazing gravel biking, for example, but also a place where they have tons of prototypers. And so rec tech entrepreneurs need to figure out how does this product become a real thing. They need prototypers, and that's what Jackson can offer. So that's a good example. And then just up the road a little bit here, Networks Northwest. They paid a lot of money, did a similar project, and really ended up focusing obviously on marine for them, as well as bikes, e-bikes, ORVs. So this is all data-driven, but that e-boating, electric boats, that's an opportunity that they really think they can lead on nationally, which I think is great. I think it's fascinating, and they're doing fascinating work, and they have Elk Rapids Marina as a partner, putting in charging. There's not a ton of electric boats out there now, but that is going to be an opportunity to attract innovators who are trying to work in that space. There's even a solar-powered boat you can ride if you haven't done that. And we've got folks coming out of Tesla and SpaceX and others doing electric boats. And they're paying attention to Michigan now. And they're actually picking up and moving to Michigan to be part of this electric boat stuff. So we can do that here. Thank you for your time. I'm excited to partner with you and Katie and the team to do it. Thanks for your time.